I'm a Jew and I'm a Zionist. I'm not going to pretend that to say otherwise would be absolutely silly.
I really wanted to be a Jew, and then I found out that I was really a Nazi.
I call it the Jiu-Jitsu move, where you take the negative and you turn it into something positive.
Well, Ben, since cat is out of the bag, let's talk about Zionism. What is Zionism? And can you actually be a Jew and a Zionist at the same time? And do you actually need to be a Jew to be a Zionist? And how do the Jews are being used by the Zionist movement, which is secular in the first place?
The Zionists violate the Jewish religion in all sorts of ways. The very definition of a Jew, according to Zionists, is different than the definition of a Jew according to Judaism. All Zionisms, instead of talking about the definition of Zionism, it's better to realize that every Zionism presupposes two things. Thing number one, the Jews are a nationality, not just a religion. Thing number two, Israel is the state of that nationality. Now the whole thing is baloney, because the Jews existed way before Israel did. We exist now independent of Israel. There is no connection between the existence of the Jews, the identity of the Jews, and the state of Israel. Yet, the state of Israel wants to own Jewish identity to the point where Japan is to the Japanese what Israel is to the Jews. That's Zionism. It's the nationalization of Jewish identity.
Judaism is a religion, a spirituality to serve God, thousands of years old. Zionism is only around 100 years old. It is the transformation from religion to nationalism, to materialism, created by non-religious Jews who hated the religion. And they really didn't want Judaism. They didn't even want to make their state in Palestine, only in Uganda at the first meetings. The reason they used the names Israel, the Star of David, hijacking, stealing the identity of Judaism and the Jewish people is in order to get a legitimacy for their existence, that people should say, oh, it's God given to them, and that they should put fear and intimidate people from speaking up against their actions because they'll call them anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
It couldn't be anything further from the truth. It's something totally different. It's a political, selfish, flawed movement called Zionism that has no legitimacy to exist. It's against the Torah. Maybe just say one thing. It's against the Torah in its essence. The concept for Jews to have a state is expressly forbidden in the Torah.
We are standing here in Times Square in New York City, while Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to speak at the United Nations to the world leaders. And we as Jewish people are joining masses of right-minded people who are standing up and saying, no, we are here to address the world and to encourage world leaders to take a stance. So many world leaders have taken a stance in the last couple of days, speaking here, addressing the United Nations, and we encourage the rest of the world. We as Jewish people are deeply embarrassed when all these crimes, this genocide, this starvation of little children, and this occupation altogether is being committed against the Palestinian people, and especially when this is being committed in our name, supposedly in the name of all Jews. And on top of all, our religion, the Jewish religion, is being misused to justify all these crimes. This is an embarrassment of our people, and this is a desecration of God's name. We are here to make it clear, to help people, to help government leaders overcome this massive propaganda and realize and understand that the state of Israel in no way represents world Jewry, and condemning the crimes of Israel is in no way anti-Semitic. This is criminal from the day they started. This is not the safety and security for the Jews. We didn't need safety and security in Palestine. We lived in Palestine in a beautiful peace prior to the 1920s, despite any differences of religions. Because the Jewish people at the time didn't have any agenda of oppressing the population of the land. It is the movement of Zionism which has destroyed that beautiful peace, and it's the continuous crimes which is fueling the endless cycle of bloodshed.
As an American Jew, devout to Judaism, I beg you all, please, don't call Israel a Jewish state. Call Israel a Zionist state, call it Herzlstan, call it however you like. But for the sake of humanity, for the sake of the Jewish people, just stop calling it in the name of an entire religion.
For these neo-Nazis, Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler. They don't want a Palestinian state. They want to destroy the Jewish state.
if the previous people you just heard from neo-Nazis, what about those people?
But there was a ton of evidence that Bibi Netanyahu allowed October 7th to take place, including the things that we found out, because I now read Haaretz daily to
You don't actually think he knew it was going to happen?
Well, let's just talk about the facts. We don't have to speculate on that. What we do know is that they did intercept the hostage plan before it took place, right? The 250 hostages that came out in Haaretz media. We also know that Egypt gave them a warning that the attacks were going to take place. Egypt said that they were being ignored. That was a fact. I've been to Israel. Have you been to Israel? We know it's the size of New Jersey. We know that it takes 15 minutes to get from one end to the other. And we know that every 5 feet, there's a person in your face holding a gun. That attack went on for 2 hours without interruption. I find that hard to believe.
Although Candace Owens can't really be an anti-Semite, can she? Because, you know, she's a DI herself. But Tucker Carlson is definitely an anti-Semite.
That any criticism of the secular government of Israel is tantamount to blood libel against the Jewish people. And if you think that maybe it was not a great idea to arm Joseph Stalin, the greatest murderer in history, then you're a Holocaust denier. Shut up.
Even Charlie Kirk starts to turn anti-Semitic. You know what I mean?
When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order?
You know, and they always remind you about that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
The real issue here is I think that Tucker Carlson's morphing from, I would say, a very edgy right-wing political figure on Fox News, but certainly within the mainstream, into a conspiracist, a person who ideologically launders anti-Semitism, who ideologically launders all sorts of anti-Americanism on his show, and then airs it for the public to hear with interviews like the ones he did with Nick Fuentes, which was essentially a massage of Nick Fuentes. You know, I think that took a lot of people by surprise.
So if you speak against the policies of foreign nation, which is Israel, which is a secular nation, you're an anti-Semite. And they always equate you to that right away.
And this new anti-Semitism has unfortunately found its way also into the United States.
Because you don't have the guts to face down a hostile media and anti-Semitic mobs demanding Israel's blood.
This show was never meant to bring any anti-Semitic feelings towards the Jews. This show is to point out that the Zionists use the Jews as the tool to bring about the end of the world or the New World Order.
We as a human race have got to get our freaking heads around what this is, because it ain't what we're told it is. It's not about what's right and beneficial for Jewish people. Jewish people are its victims, not its beneficiaries. Jewish people have been hung out to dry again and again by this crowd that claims to have their best interests at heart, like hell they do. That's why I call this Rothschild Zionism. It was created by them, it is controlled by them to this minute, and it was created as a secret society within the web to massively contribute to the manipulation and control of our global society and individual countries, etc., etc. It's Rothschild Zionism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, not that anti-Semitism means what we think it does. Zionism is not about Jewish people. Even in its play-out way or world, it is a political system, a political philosophy. At its core, it is a secret society putting its agents in places of power. One of the very few things that Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, has ever said, which is true, is you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist.
I did not need to be a Jew to be a Zionist, for I am. Israel is essential.
I came into Congress 13 years ago, with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel.
I will do everything in my power to ensure broad and bipartisan support for Israel.
President Trump's administration will continue to be perhaps the most pro-Israel administration in American history.
As the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in our government and as a staunch defender of Israel.
We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel.
If a country like ours, supposedly the most powerful in the world, is devoting all of its time internally to conversations about Israel, it's probably not going in a good direction. There's probably a lot being neglected in favor of this very specific boutique conversation about this tiny little country. It's just not good for anybody, including Israel, by the way.
Also remember this guy? Well, if you're old enough, this is Shah of Iran. He said that.
You think the Jewish lobby in the United States is too powerful for the interests of Israel?
I think so. Sometimes they are disserving the interests of Israel because
Explain.
they're pushing around too many people.
How do you mean pushing around?
Well, pressuring. They have many means at their disposal. They are putting up pressure on many, many people. And at the end, I don't think that it will even help Israel.
Why, if this is true, why would the President of the United States pay attention to that lobby?
They are strong.
Strong in what sense?
They are controlling many things.
Since we're going back in time, let's look at the founder of Zionism, Theodor Herzl. Well, if you never heard anything about Theodor Herzl and Zionism to you is some kind of conspiracy theory. No, it was an actual movement that was started in Europe by a Hungarian Jew.
Theodor Herzl was an assimilated Jew who came from an assimilated family.
His family later moved to Vienna, where Herzl earned a law degree. But his real passion was writing, so he divided his time between writing plays, working as a reporter, and looking for a way to end anti-Semitism. At one point, Herzl even proposed a mass baptism of Jewish babies in Vienna's largest cathedral. He believed that if Jews adopted Christian culture, they would finally be accepted by European society.
So his solution to a problem was to nationalize a Jew. It was nothing to do with religion in itself, but with national identity of a Jewish state. You know, so like Japan is to Japanese, France is to French. Jewish state is to Jews. In this case, it's Israel. So he started a movement that had nothing to do with religion itself. As a matter of fact, he was so not Jewishly religious that he wanted to baptize all the Jewish kids into Christianity. It meant nothing to him.
Herzl realized that the only solution to anti-Semitism was for the Jews to have their own state. Herzl shut himself in his apartment and wrote his ideas down for 5 straight days. In the following year, he published his most famous work, The Jewish State. Not everyone was thrilled with Herzl's ideas. Religious Jews thought it was blasphemy to reestablish the nation of Israel without the Messiah. In 1897, Herzl gathered Jewish delegates from around the world for the first World Zionist Congress.
In the same meeting, he became a president of the first Zionist Congress. And interestingly enough, he proposed something. He proposed something with another ism in it, which is kind of reminiscent of communism. It was very expensive to relocate all the Jews into a Jewish state because you actually had to buy the land. So he did his homework. He went to Ottoman Empire. He proposed to appropriate money from the rich Jews of Europe, specifically the German Jews and Austrian Jews, to buy land in Palestine. Right? The Jews, first of all, said, like, no, screw you, that's my money. Second of all, German first. My Jewish identity has nothing to do with my nationality. And by the way, Rothschilds didn't really like Theodor Herzl as well, because they're doing it themselves. They already were buying land in Palestine and relocating settlements. Funny enough, they became leaders of the Zionist movement later on. That's a historical fact. Now, if you're saying this is a conspiracy theory and now you're pushing the old stories on us, how the Jews took money away from other Jews to pay for the relocation in Israel and all this other stuff, well, not quite. We have a Madeleine Albright story. Remember the head of the state for the United States? Yes, she was a Secretary of State, and apparently she did not know she was Jewish for some time. And then she found out that her parents converted to Catholicism to escape Jewish prosecution. There's a little bit of parallel there between Theodor Herzl and her family. Interestingly enough, that we'll find out somewhere around 1999, it came to a head that her family was actually appropriating and storing the riches of the Jews that were escaping Europe, specifically Prague and Austria. and they were holding it till better times, supposedly. Instead, they actually took the money and relocated to the United States, where they established their family's holdings. Let's talk about Balfour Agreement now.
Let's go back to November 2nd, 1917, when British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour sent a letter to Lord Walter Rothschild, a leader in the British Zionist Federation. Balfour's letter expressed sympathy for Jewish Zionist aspirations at the heart of Zionism, a political ideology calling for Jews to return to Palestine. The Balfour Declaration said the UK would use their best endeavors to facilitate the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. So on that date, Zionism became an official objective of Britain's foreign policy. But the British had no legal authority to establish a home or a state for anyone in lands that they didn't own, a land where 92% of the local population were Muslims and Christians who were never consulted. And even though they didn't own the land, the British would soon control it. The lines on the map were in flux. That's because, well, World War I was going on and British Allied troops were advancing on Palestine. Just a few weeks after the Balfour Declaration was issued, British General Edmund Allenby conquered Jerusalem. The British Prime Minister at the time, David Lloyd George, called its capture a Christmas present for the British people. During the war, the UK made a number of promises that it wouldn't keep. One was to the Sharif of Mecca, Hussein bin Ali. He's the great-great-grandfather of Jordan's King Abdullah II. Britain promised their support for a single, independent, and unified Arab state. And in return, he agreed to be part of a revolt against the Ottoman Caliphate. A second commitment was made to France under a secret agreement between colonial powers to divide up the Middle East between them. Under the Sykes-Picot Agreement, Palestine would be an international zone. But the agreement wasn't honored later on. Britain wanted Palestine for itself. Then came the third commitment, to the British Zionist Federation. Now, this is the one that the British actually honored. Its ambiguous language created problems, but it was a deliberate choice to use the word home rather than state in the Declaration. Each of the 5 official drafts of the Declaration were carefully reviewed by the Foreign Office. The Zionist project in Palestine was one way for the British government to resolve the problem of growing anti-Semitism in Europe. It would also protect Britain's interests throughout the region.
Who runs the world? No, not girls. Banks do. And as you can see, they use the war as their tool to make things happen in their favor.
Since 1885, the Rothschilds were trying to start a world war because the Zionist International Congress at Basel, Switzerland, has called for 3 world wars. At the end of the Third World War, they would control the entire world. 1 billion Christians are fighting a war to the death against 1 billion Muslims, which will leave Israel in charge of the world, which was predicted at the 6th International Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland in 1896. So after the Zionist Congress in 1896, you had World War I, World War II, and now we have World War III. At the end of World War I, the Rothschilds organized a number of groups called, one was the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London. It's called Chatham House, and that is the think tank of all of Europe today. And although its headquarters in London, the real headquarters are in Brussels, which is the headquarters of the Lambert family, which is part of the Rothschild family.
Now, before you get all anti-Semitic on me and say the Jews are the evil, they want to kill billions of Christians and Muslims and conquer the world with the New World Order. Well, there's other explanations to that, and I believe they are very demonic/satanic. Have you heard of Kabbalah, right? You know where it came from? We'll get a little bit deeper into Kabbalah in the next episode and mysticism behind all the Zionist movement. Because the Zionist movement, even though they're trying to really connect to the Bible, is actually a witchcraft. Comes from Babylon. Yes, you heard it right. But I digress. Let's focus back on how they're going to usher in the World War III. First of all, I believe World War III is already here. And it's not just the actual conflicts that we experience in the Middle East, Russia and Ukraine, numerous conflicts throughout the world. But specifically, this is world on people and people's souls. we live in a time of transhumanism. That's why I believe the trans movement is pushed by the think tanks and corporations and the banksters. And that's why I don't trust people like Elon Musk and Larry Ellison's, because they're into transhumanism. They are going to control you. They're going to control you with technology, with things like Neuralinks and CBDCs and Mark of the Beast, which we're going to get into in the later program, probably the next episode, because this one's getting too long. They've been studying all this MK Ultra mind control stuff for ages. What do you think happened during COVID-19 lockdowns? They knew exactly which buttons to push, how to scare you, and how to implement draconian measures to keep you at home entertained with your TVs. And that's why a lot of you actually went viral during COVID. Good for you. How are you using your power, though? So let's get back into the system. How the system actually works, and how they're going to usher in this new age of control through transhumanism and all this matrix stuff that's happening already.
Who owns your mind? Zuckerberg runs Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram Jewish. Alphabet, which owns Google and YouTube, is run by a couple of Jews. Larry Page, Sergey Brin, okay? So that's YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram. TikTok is now owned by Larry Ellison. So that's TikTok as well. Those are your social platforms. Out of the big media conglomerates, you got Disney, which is run by Bob Iger. You got NBC and Universal, which are run by Jews. You have CBS, Warner Bros., Paramount Studios, now run by David Ellison. You've got the Salem Radio Network and Brad Parscale working on behalf of Israel. You've got Fox News, Wall Street Journal, under the Murdochs, they're friends of Israel. You've got Daily Wire, Prager University, Breitbart, all run by Jewish editors, Jewish owners. Are you starting to get it?
Starting to get what exactly, Nick? The system? How the system run and operated? And that you are always an outsider unless you play by the rules of the system? What is the system?
I distinguish between the deep state, which is the Vatican, the Rothschilds, and the Chabad Jews. And then they use the Freemasons and the Knights of Malta as fixers, and they use the City of London, Wall Street, central banks as managers.
And that's no secret. You know why? Because symbolism will be their downfall. They always show it to you.
So here's Donald Trump meeting Japan's new prime minister, and take a look at the symbolism. This is the Freemasonic Royal Arch. Checkered board floor, 2 pillars, and an archway. Checkered board floor, 2 pillars, and an archway.
They are occultists, and they are showing it to you. But we'll get into it in a second. Why?
Below the deep state is the shadow government, which is comprised of the politicians and senior bureaucrats, many of them murderous pedophiles.
That pedophiles are in power. Yes. They are literally in power. And that is intentional because then they can be controlled while they are in power. And they are also exhibiting signs of a psychopathology that lets them know that they will do harm to the masses and feel nothing because they were themselves, many of them, raped when they were children. Yep. It is not a coincidence that Justin Trudeau is gay. Obama, gay. Zelensky, gay. Emmanuel Macron, gay and married to a trans man who molested him when he was a child.
That had been brought into the pedophilia system as a control blackmail element. Those are the shadow government people, but they're not the deep state. They're the best of the servant class. The different ways in which the deep state, and particularly the Zionist supporting foundation for the deep state, which has the Anti-Defamation League as its primary secret police.
It's not so secret anymore. They're out in the open.
They censor, manipulate, and digitally assassinate people. And the reason they do this is because those people are getting close to the truth.
And if you think it's happening in a land far, far away, where you get censored, jailed, quite literally jailed. In Canada, you get jailed. One guy got 9 months. In UK, you get 30 arrests a day for hate speech crime associated with antisemitism, and not only. So it's not that far-fetched, and it's actually already happening in the United States.
We're here because of the comments you made online about the Jewish community. Are you
so what?
No, I'm saying, are you?
I have a freedom of speech, dude.
Yeah, no, we get that. We get that.
So we got to make sure that you're not. Do you have a warrant?
No, that's why we're.
Yeah, you see that sign? Yeah. See how it says no soliciting? What you're doing is basically soliciting. You understand that, right? Yeah. It means you're not welcomed here.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Stay off the lawn, please. This is what they're doing, guys. You make comments about the Jews online, they'll fucking show up at your door. This is what they do. This is freedom of speech. This is how much control Israel has over our country.
It's not just you ordinary citizens who are threatened by this injustice, this occupation of the foreign entity, and your government is compromised. Your government is all traitors. Your media is all traitors. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. It's your country. I live in Canada. I'm already screwed. People going to jail here over this. Although Carney is saying he's going to arrest Netanyahu. You know what Netanyahu said to him?
I say to President Macron, Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Starmer, when mass murderers, rapists, baby killers, and kidnappers thank you, you're on the wrong side of justice. You're on the wrong side of humanity. And you're on the wrong side of history.
It's not only Netanyahu that threatens people. And it's not only US and the Western countries that are being threatened. He just bombed Lebanon, the southern regions where they're trying to rebuild it because they just don't want it to be rebuilt because they want to take it over as well, because it's all part of the Zionist plan. And we get into it in a second. Why is it a Zionist plan? But here, check this out.
You're on the Russian payroll, and I understand this is a Russian propaganda, but you have to be very careful because let me tell you, we're going to finish this war. We're going to win because we're stronger. After this, Russia will pay the price. Believe me, Russia will pay the price. Russia is supporting the enemies of Israel. Russia is supporting Nazi people who want to commit genocide on us, and just Russia will pay the price. Russia also. Now, listen to me very carefully. We are going to finish with these Nazis. We're going to win this war. It's going to take the time it's going to take, but we're going to win this war. Afterwards, we're not forgetting what you are doing. We're not forgetting. We will come. We will make sure that Ukraine wins. We will make sure that you pay the price for what you have done. You as Russia, and you and as all the enemies of Israel, and you as all the people who are now making everything they can to support genocide of the Jews in Israel. We are not forgetting. We are not forgetting. Remember exactly what I'm saying now. You will pay the price.
They think we're bluffing. We go forward with it. We have the right to use any and all weapons in our disposal, academically speaking, nuclear weapons. And I'm tired of using euphemisms. I'm tired of saying, well, we have something, in the basement, but we won't be the first to introduce nuclear weapons in the Middle East. It's enough already. I said, no, let me bring you back to October 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. And what happened? An A-4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings, and we told the Americans, take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway.
So in other words, we threatened their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that. And so he said, is this what you want us to threaten now? I said, absolutely, except this time I want us to go forward with it if necessary.
So here's another message to those Western leaders. Israel will not allow you to shove a terror state down our throats. We will not commit national suicide because you don't have the guts to face down a hostile media and anti-Semitic mobs demanding Israel's blood.
Notice how enemy is the media. We just mentioned a few seconds ago that media is owned by Jews, not just Jews, Zionist Jews like Larry Ellison. And they double down on the war against the media and against the people that use the media, against your rights, against your freedoms. They want control, total control, your opinion, your thought. It's beyond 1984. It's beyond Matrix. I don't even know what it is. Satanism?
In the social media of the Western world and the United States. We will have to counter it, and we will counter it with our own efforts.
The next thing we will do, is to put restriction on the social media in a way that not allowed to make brutal propaganda in the social media. Because this is a worldwide problem. And it should be initiated by the United States of America.
We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people, and give direction to our non-Jewish friends.
It is no secret that the United States media, in all its forms, glorifies the Masonic one-eye symbolism. The country itself was founded by Freemasons, who take the eye of providence to symbolize their God. Does this not match the description given by Zechariah and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It is also no coincidence that the most iconic symbol of the nation is the Statue of Liberty. This statue closely resembles Lucifer or Satan. Consider the similarities between the Statue of Liberty and the Statue of Lucifer in the Cathedral of Belgium. Both have crowns, both have chained legs. The posture and face of the Statue of Liberty also strongly resemble Thomas Lawrence's painting, Satan Summons His Legions. The statue stands in New York City, a city nicknamed the Big Apple, a symbol that evokes the forbidden fruit of Eden that Satan used to deceive Adam and Eve.
Albert Pike said this about Freemasonry in this very book. He says that Freemasonry is based almost totally on the Kabbalah. Yes. Jewish magic. Yes. And many Jewish rabbis have admitted this, and they say that in all of the rituals of Freemasonry, you will find the Kabbalah, the system of magic of the Jews.
Elite Hermetic symbology is like a parallel symbol designed and distinguished philosophically.
So yeah, here you go. You know, who runs the world? Satan, right? He runs all the systems. He uses the Jews and the Christians to bring about the end of the world and bring in the new world order. But even he doesn't really have control over you. He can trick you, but he cannot take away your will. So I'm going to show you in the next episode how they're planning to trick you in surrendering your will by using technology, which a lot of you already have done. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next episode.